Welcome to this lecture on differentiated instruction. This episode we will focus on content differentiation. As a reminder, content is one of the pillars of the framework for differentiated instruction. By focusing in on the four pillars, it helps a teacher become much more strategic and explicit in looking at differentiated instruction strategies within the classroom. Content refers to what a student needs to learn and how they will gain access to that information. Content is most often differentiated by providing materials at varied abilities or grade levels within one classroom. Reading materials that address course content below and above grade levels are common ways to differentiate content. The critical aspect of content differentiation is that the important learning goals remain constant for all learners. Differentiation cannot be about having different expectations for learning outcomes for students of varied ability within a classroom. The variable that changes is the curriculum material used for instruction. Differentiation of content offers students the chance to start at different places in the curriculum and/or proceed at different paces, but all learners are held to high expectations for their learning. There are several steps to follow when differentiating content. Of course, all of this is based on engaging in the process of pre-assessment. First, you need to identify the important instructional goal and objectives for a unit of learning. To accomplish this, teachers may want to use a KUD chart. There's one found in your workbook. Using the KUD chart, teachers can identify the most important learning of the unit, what the students should know, what students should understand, and what the students should be able to do as a result of the learning that has occurred in this unit. The next step is to identify the instructional materials that can be used to help achieve this learning. And then finally, organize the material by complexity, matching the complexity to student need based on the pre-assessment. For an example, let's take a literature unit. The important learning goal is identified as students will demonstrate critical reading strategies. Usually this is one of the standards that's associated with literacy. Using the framework for content differentiation, the teacher completes the KUD chart. In terms of knowing, the teacher identifies that all students should know ongoing reading and self-monitoring strategies such as predicting, summarizing, and questioning. Next, the teacher identifies that all students should understand that there are strategies that good readers use to make sense of text. And then finally, the teacher identifies what students should be able to do. In this case, the teacher identifies that all students should be able to read text and select appropriate strategies to build comprehensions. After this analysis, then the teacher can start to identify the various kinds of reading materials that he or she may want to use in the class to be able to accomplish this. And of course, this is all based on the pre-assessment data that has already been taken at the very beginning of the unit. It is critical that you use this process in order to develop the content differentiation. One of the bad names I think associated with differentiated instruction is that people just kind of in a very haphazard fashion start selecting materials in order to address the particular needs. By using this particular process, the KUD process really helps identify what the essential learning is, and then and only then can the appropriate materials be identified for use with students. The most difficult part of all of this is probably the understanding piece. It's the one that probably is most foreign to many classroom instructors as they begin this process. But the main focus that you want to take is being able to look at what ultimately are the big picture connections that I want my students to make upon completion of this unit of study. Only after a lot of practice can this be a much easier process. Knowing and doing are probably a lot more familiar to classroom contexts that teachers are familiar with. By using the framework that's presented in the workbook will help you sort of work through these particular ideas. I encourage you to work with colleagues in trying to determine what the knowledge, understanding, and doing pieces are for your units.